Okay, so we're going to make Grandma Kennedy's caramel corn. This is kind of famous in Kennedy lore. So the first thing, I'll give you the list of ingredients. It requires 2 sticks of butter, 2 cups of brown sugar, a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of butter flavoring, teaspoon of burnt sugar flavoring, and half a cup of white syrup, light corn syrup. So let's get started. First, we're going to take our butter. Oh, I'm sorry. First thing we got to do is get our popcorn ready. We're going to pop our popcorn. So, first off, Orville Redenbacher's butter flavored or Mike Movie butter flavored is the kind I use. It has the fewest amount of holes and old maids of any of the popcorns I do. So we're going to use Orville Redenbacher's popcorn. We're going to microwave that, and we're going to do about 3 bags and put them in a roasting pan that we can use to stir the caramel in. And so as soon as this pops, we'll be right back.
Okay, now start.
This is our 3rd bag of popcorn from the microwave. So Orville Redenbacher. These bags I don't like. They're not maybe as big as the others, but I think it'll be enough popcorn to make a batch. Yeah, I put it in a bowl. I shake it down to get the old maids to the bottom. Now I use my fingers as a rake. Rake out the fluffy popcorn into the pan I'm going to make the popcorn in. This leaves the old maids behind in the bottom of the bowl. And I'll show you that here in just a second. Sean, if you want to come around here and get a better shot. Anyway, so we've basically filled this roasting pan to a pretty reasonable level with popcorn. And 3 bags is about all you can get in there and still stir it with the caramel. Come here and you can see what's in the bowl here, how I'm getting the last few out. See, I fluff up the popcorn, and there's these old maids in the bottom. So then you can just grab the fluffy ones that are left, with all the old maids, and what you do then is dump those in the trash. Here we go, and get rid of the little scraps. Okay, so I started putting our ingredients in the pan. If you look at a shot in here, Sean, get it overhead. What you'll see is the burnt sugar, the brown sugar, 2 cups, half a cup of white corn syrup, and 2 sticks of butter. And we're going to add to that our teaspoon of salt. Let's get a teaspoon of salt. That gives it a little extra kick to taste good. And we're going to have the butter flavoring. This is the new bottle, so we got to open it. Pour out a teaspoon of butter flavor. And then our burnt sugar flavoring. It's gotten a little thick. This may take a minute. Let's see. We keep it around a while. Anyway, the burnt sugar flavoring is Extra Touch. You can go to their website. They're in Shenandoah, Iowa, and they have it online for $6 a bottle. You have to buy $22 worth of stuff to get free shipping. So if you buy 4 bottles of burnt sugar flavoring, which will last you a lot of batches of caramel corn, that will give you free shipping of the stuff. Sometimes you get your grocery store to carry it if they carry that brand of Extra Touch. Hy-Vee in Kansas City carries that brand. Sometimes you can get them to bring it to you. Okay, so we have our butter flavoring, burnt sugar flavoring, salt, brown sugar, butter, and corn syrup. Then we take that to the burner. Sean, come on over here. Turn on the light. Turn on medium-high heat. And we'll get that started cooking, and our popcorn's ready. At this time, you also preheat your oven to 250 degrees. So you can pop it in the oven when you've got the caramel on the popcorn. So we'll hit start, and that's preheating. And our burner's starting to warm up, and we'll be stirring that once it starts boiling. Okay, so we're get some heat to our caramel mixture. Our butter's starting to melt, so I'm kind of stirring the brown sugar in amongst the corn syrup and the butter. And what I'll tell you is what we're going to go for here is we're going to boil this mixture for 5 minutes approximately over medium-high heat. And what we want is we want this to reach a temperature of 250 degrees, which is the hardball temperature for making candy with corn syrup. And that's what gives you your magic in the caramel so that it's actually crispy on your caramel popcorn and not chewy. So I have a meat thermometer that I can just drop in there, and it'll tell me it's 250 degrees. I also have used an infrared thermometer that you can just shoot on it and measure the temperature, or you can use a candy thermometer, which is a glass one. I just prefer not to stir my caramel with the glass in it because you can bang it around and maybe break it. Anyway, so we'll let this get to boiling, and when we get close to the 250 degrees, we'll come right back. Okay, so we're back, and our caramel corn is boiling. Sean, can you see that in there? Mm-hmm. And you can see that I'm stirring it just to kind of keep it going. We're at about 240 degrees, so got a little ways for it to heat up. 245. There's some 250. That's, of course, in the middle of the pan, so let me just do a little check here. Stir. So we're right about 250. So this is going pretty fast because I was using pretty good heat. So let me let that continue to boil for just a second. See my little rag for that, so I'll set it here on the counter. And then I get my half a teaspoon of baking soda. So this is kind of the magic. I like to make sure I get all of it to 250. So I'll kind of stir this around in there. And we're above the 250. So I'll go ahead and shut the heat off. Give it one last stir. Now this is kind of exciting to watch. We get a little chemical reaction here. So let's see if I can get my spoon propped up. It won't fall down. Well, we'll have to set it on the counter again. And so we get a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And we dump that in. Stir it in. Now watch the reaction. This is part of the magic. You see it kind of change color. Get kind of poofy. There it went, right there. That's what you're looking for. And once you get your caramel like that, you just take it over here and dump it on the popcorn. You got this poofy, fluffy caramel. You don't need to worry about getting it all out of the pan. There's usually plenty of caramel to make it all good. Okay, and then what we do, set that pan aside, and we stir the caramel corn. And I get the popcorn coated with the caramel. So this will be kind of scary your first time because you won't know how hard to stir the popcorn. You feel like you're tearing it up, but you know, most of it will survive just fine. But you try and get it while it's still hot. The popcorn's a little cool now, so the caramel starts to set up on it, so we don't worry about getting it perfectly coated this first go around. You're going to stir it 3 or 4 more times. You try and want to get the caramel off the bottom of the pan if it went to the bottom of the pan and get it up on the corn so it's melting on the popcorn. Just kind of get that stirred through. Get each piece got some caramel on it. Sort of find any dry spots and kind of stir them through the caramel. And see how I'm kind of pulling it up and mixing it. So this is a pretty good hot batch of caramel. It's stirring pretty good. So I'll just stir it a little more. And when it starts to get a little thick, well, you can't really stir it, then you go ahead and pop it in the oven. And we're going to bake it at 250 for an hour. And we're going to stir it 3 or 4 times during that process. I usually just set the timer for 15 minutes and come back and stir it. And so that is your first coating of caramel. And that goes in the oven. And you set your burner rack till you got room for your pan. Set that in there and set your timer for 15 minutes. Okay, so we're back. The timer's finished, so I'm going to go ahead and reset the timer for another 15 minutes. Go ahead and hit start on that. And then I open it up and I pull out my caramel corn. Get the pan out here and I stir. And you can tell now that it's a little more fluid. I look for caramel on the bottom of the pan and scoop it back up on top of the corn. But you can see that it's a little more fluid because it's hot. So you can get it and stir it around. And just kind of mix it around. Look for some thick spots. Kind of stir that with the thinner spots. And you're just managing caramel head, getting it on the corn. And let's kind of get that stirred. Get it coated. Some of that caramel up there. There's some more that might be down in the middle. Okay, and once we kind of got that all stirred through, we're going to do that a couple more times. You'll notice on the top of the stove, I already have the next recipe batch of ingredients for another batch ready to go. This is 2 cups of brown sugar, or half a cup of white Karo syrup, 2 sticks of butter, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of burnt sugar flavoring, and a teaspoon of butter flavoring. Ready to go again. I have my half a teaspoon of baking soda to throw in at the end, ready to go. So I can actually start popping the corn and fill the other pan, if I have another pan, to be ready to make another batch as soon as this one comes out. And I fire up another batch and make 2 in a row. This is where we're going to put the caramel corn to cool it. I've cleared off my space. We'll dump that pan of caramel corn out on this counter, press it out kind of flat to spread it out so it cools, and then we'll put it in some bowls and bags and have it ready to eat. Okay, so this is 45 minutes into the baking. This will be the 3rd time we stir the caramel corn, and the last before we dump it out. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like at this stage of the game. We've stirred it twice already. This is our 3rd time. So there's not a lot of excess caramel now. It's getting more evenly distributed. It's still stirring good because it's warm at 250. But it's looking good. It's starting to look like the stuff we're going to eat. And so that last 15 minutes is just all we need to get ready to go. So just kind of one more stir. Let's see, it's pretty evenly coated. And we pop it back in for the last 15 minutes. Okay, so our timer has timed out for the full hour now. And we're going to pull out this batch of popcorn. And that's our first batch. And this is the fun part. We've got a nice cleared spot here for it. We're going to break it up. Get it all kind of starting to loosen a little, get a little air in it, cool it a little. You just kind of dump it out on the counter. Hopefully it doesn't go on the floor. And what you want to do is this starts to cool as you kind of press it out so it breaks up into bite-sized pieces instead of staying in big clumps. Let's get the air through it. And you'll have a nice batch of Grandma's homemade caramel corn. Best caramel corn in the 50 states. And Faye's going to sample it.
Really good.
So as it cools, that's where it gets crispy. It's kind of chewy right now, but it'll get crispy in just a minute. So I usually kind of flatten them out to where it's not too clumpy. Start breaking it up. And I put it in bowls or bags. And there you have it. Christmas time, caramel corn.